Backlog. So what did you guys think of Thor, Love and Thunder?
I loved it.
I unabashedly loved it, and I'm
Yeah.
super weirded out that it seems like the internet does not love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird.
I
but
agree.
it's to me, this is honestly the best movie of Phase 4. Like, I would say, like, I probably liked Spider-Man a little bit better, but Spider-Man relies on you liking Spider-Man for 20 years.
Oh yeah, totally.
This is like, as a standalone movie, this is the best standalone movie of Phase 4, and I don't understand. Like, I don't understand what people wanted different about this movie, because to me, it's perfect. It's almost
I
perfect.
completely agree. I think what I've been seeing is that people, "Oh, it's too many jokes." It's a comedy, like, is it
Yeah,
not, like, supposed to be
it's
funny?
yeah, it's
And
still supposed to
the
have
last
jokes.
time the last time a Thor movie was serious, everybody hated it. Like, Thor: Dark World, nobody liked. You
Yeah.
barely even remember anything from it, and I've seen it twice. So I don't know. I really loved Love and Thunder, and I thought the same thing when I finished watching it. And I was looking at reviews online, and so many people were shitting on it. I was like, dude, did we watch the same movie? It was really
Yeah.
good.
I think it's a lot of it has to do with like, doesn't it have hate for the director Taika Waititi?
I don't
Um,
even know, because people love all his other stuff, or most of his other
Thor
stuff.
Ragnarok, that's
Uh, pe-
everybody's
yeah,
ultimate favorite.
people loved Ragnarok, which is, I think, usually everyone's favorite Thor movie. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this was just Ragnarok with more serious themes, or this was Ragnarok with like more emotional themes outside of just
Yeah.
like Thor's family stuff.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So to me this is the best Thor movie. Like, I like Ragnarok, but this is like Thor gets a daughter in the end. He reconciles his feelings with his first love. Like, this is so much more positive in terms of like everything that happens to him, and that people just don't like it. I don't know, and it's weird. Like, even when like people are complaining about the other stuff in the movie, they're like, Gore should have killed more gods, and I'm like, uh, that wasn't like, I see what you're saying, but like
it
that
was
kind
about
of would have
Thor.
like it wasn't really, it was about Thor. The movie wasn't about Gore. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, people want more death and destruction, but then like they don't, because they see that just makes a dark movie that no one likes, and then we get like a Scott Snyder situation. Like, I don't know. I feel like the internet just doesn't like. I often feel like the internet doesn't know what it wants, but I especially feel it for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I don't know. Yeah, no, I thought it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it. I think it's the best Phase 4 movie. Easy. I mean, I don't think it was. So the problem is it didn't have to like live up to the idea of the multiverse as much as other MCU movies, because I think that's why I was disappointed in Spider-Man. I was disappointed in Multiverse of Madness. I just thought they were like basically just cowards for not doing anything with the world
Yeah,
because
they tried to do too much and did nothing.
they did nothing, and ultimately none of those movies really impacted the way that the overall arcing story, like, it really didn't do anything. Like, look at Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like everybody just forgot who he was, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like I hated that, and
Yeah,
I don't.
sad.
I mean, like, I get that it's depressing, but also, like, Peter Parker, you were upset that fucking your friends are going to a different college and you endangered the entire world, not even to meaning like other multiverses.
Multiverse! Not even
Like,
the multiverse!
which, it was all because, whatever. And then also, it's really ultimately Doctor Strange's fault because he's a fucking idiot. And then somehow just blame Peter Parker for it.
Yo, no, but like, for real though?
Yeah, he's an
Like,
idiot.
dude, like, I think that's kind of the low-key secret of Multiverse of Madness. Was the Illuminati right? Low-key,
I mean,
dude
yeah.
endangers the entire multiverse on a whim just because he fucks around and he finds out.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
like, he's way too powerful to just like, dude, why are you just doing whatever you feel like?
Yeah, he's like, what is it? Like, even Wong, like, being the Sorcerer Supreme, like, really doesn't step in to do anything. Like,
Mhm.
he's like,
Wong's his
oh,
friend.
he's like,
Wong doesn't come on his bullshit
He's
either.
kind of just like, leave me out of it, and you can do whatever you
he's
want.
like, I'm going on vacation. Don't you kids do
Mm-hmm.
anything wrong. And
Like, if
then,
the ancient one came back, she would beat both their asses for just being dumb.
Oh my god.
I mean,
She'd be like, "You did what?"
I remember
the multiverse what?
remember in what is it in Endgame, like she's like, Strange is supposed to be the best of us, and then like
Mhm.
he's just doing all this fucking dumb shit, you know, like yeah. It's like,
Oh man, she'd be so disappointed in her investment if she did.
Yeah,
she went through and saw the future. She's like, oh, oh, I see all these things, and then
I feel like she stopped at a certain point. She's
well,
like, "They
yeah,
got
because
this,
like,
right?"
didn't she
yeah,
like she can only see into the future so far because she
Yeah,
couldn't see past where she dies.
yeah.
So like she couldn't
uh,
see everything else.
Oh yeah, no,
that's
that is a
true.
plot point. Yeah, so it's
That
like
makes sense.
you should have. Oh man, if she could have only seen the dumb shit he would get up
Yeah,
to.
but then why does she know that Strange is supposed to be the best of them? Like, at what
I mean, because
point?
he's super talented. I mean, the fact how like his saving the world in Endgame was really amazing. But I'm like, bruh, after that, I'm like, I'm not saying you peaked, but you gotta find a new hobby.
Yeah,
I'm like,
maybe she
yeah,
only saw to that point, and from what she saw, he was the best of, I don't know, them, I guess.
yeah.
I think it was just a throwaway line that they really didn't look into. But um,
Yeah.
Because he's
the
a menace. He's a menace.
but I guess we have to get back to Thor.
Yeah.
Right.
I sorry guys, I loved Thor. I thought it was great. I think it's the best Thor movie personally. I had so much fun with it, and I mean Gore was probably the weakest part of it, and I really didn't care for like the ending. Well, part of the ending. I I think I okay. So here's my biggest gripe. I think that my problem with this is I think that it is sort of I think it was a self-insert of Taika Waititi in a way because
I mean, Korgard is,
well
but
right.
you, yeah.
Well, I think in the story though, other than, him, it's there's a lot of vanity to some of the aspects of the movie, I think, to reflect on the director. Like obviously having his kids in the movie.
But
Uh
so did Chris Hemsworth. You know what I mean?
Sure. Fine, that's fine. But I mean, I think this more reflects on him in like basically essentially the answer to all Thor's problems was to have a child. And
Well,
which does not that is the answer at the end. It's that
yeah.
you have a midlife crisis, get a child because they will fix all of your problems. And
Well, no, but
I
like
do not like that message. I think
so. I think that's. I think it was. I see where you're getting that, but I don't think that's the complete picture. I think that at the beginning, Peter was like, "Bro, you just need to find something to care about."
yeah, it's a
And
child.
that's what it ended up being. But like, it didn't tell Thor to have a child. It just said that like you need to find something to care about, and like he did, and it was a cute way it happened. I don't know.
I don't know.
I
I think
liked it.
it kind of tied up well too with the fact when he was talking to Jane, how he had been like going back and forth in his head. Like, did he want to stay with her and like start a family? He had mentioned it in the movie that he wanted to have a kid with
Hmm.
her, before they, split off and then everything else that happened.
Mm.
Yeah. I'll say in terms of like backstories, this is one of the few movies that does a flashback right, in that it instantly like makes the Jane Thor relationship a million times better, and also makes
Yeah,
sense why they split
I
up.
agree.
Because
Right.
before I'm like, I don't see what they see in each other, like other than he's hot. And now I'm like, oh okay, like he's a little bit of a himbo, but like in a cute way, and like they got along, and it was cute. Like that scene of them roller skating with
Yeah,
Mjolnir pulling them. That's top 10. That's top 10 Marvel shit for me. It's just a great piece of like imaginative stupidity.
But
But
I mean
yeah,
I know we're moving on from the subject, but do you think, I mean, because this is where I kind of have a gripe with it, is that I want to bring it back to the child thing, because ultimately having something to distract yourself does not fix your internal problems as an individual. So I think Thor will continue to be unhappy. He should be, because
I
he is using something else as a void to fill, and that's why I don't like the child thing.
yeah,
It's not
I
my
get that.
favorite.
Yeah.
I think as well though, with her being a person and her having, she has a personality or whatever. I think raising her, he'll probably learn a lot more about himself and he'll teach her lessons that he maybe didn't know that he needed to hear as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time that's what people do. They kind of like preach and then they don't practice it. But maybe he'll learn things from her.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like honestly, like I think he was at an unhappy place because a lot of shit had happened to him, and he wasn't really moving on because of it. And I think this was really the cathartic movie. Like, I mean, it tied up his loose ends with Jane. It gave him something to do in the future. Like, yeah, it's not going to fix his life, but I think he was already well on the path to fixing his life. You see that at the beginning of the movie where he's like getting back in shape. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna go from sad bod to dad bod, or from
Yeah.
dad bod to god bod, or I don't even fucking know. But
Hmm.
like I think he was already well on the way to doing some self healing. It's just that like you know seeing Jane brought back some old feelings, but I mean he was able to kind of work past those in the end because like he realizes that life is meant to be lived, and I don't know. I was really happy with this movie. I don't see what people weren't seeing about it. I
Eh.
liked it. It was really cute. Within the end, that like. Dude, the chemistry between him and the little girl at the end was amazing, and I'm like, why was
Mm.
it so good? And then I looked it up, and it's actually
Yeah.
his daughter, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
I
Eh.
thought
that's
the
really
same
Chris
thing.
Hemsworth's daughter. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's his actual daughter. Like I think 3 of his kids are in the movie. Like 2 of his kids were as him being younger. Like when you see him like running as a little kid,
Hmm.
like that's one of his sons.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, no, I don't know. I really like this movie. I think the biggest problem with Phase 4 Marvel movies is that they try to do too much world building for
Yeah.
shit down the road, and they're shitty standalone movies, they're shitty individual
Hmm.
movies. The story they tell, like in between the actual, start start credits to end credits, isn't that good. That's my complaint about Multiverse of Madness. I didn't feel that with this movie. I thought this had a complete story arc for the main character from start to finish, and I loved it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd give this movie like a 9 easily.
Yeah, man. I think I give it like an 8. I don't think it deserves a 9. I think that's for me. I think it's a little
Mhm.
too strong. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's a good movie. I liked the fun. I had fun with it. I don't like the idea that Jane goes to. I don't want to see the scene where Jane goes to Valhalla. I don't know. I feel like it makes her death cheapened a little bit.
I'd say it gives her a happy ending because her spirit ends up somewhere.
Yeah, but
It's a-
I would have been way more like, I don't know, like I would have been, I don't know how to explain it, but I would have been more sad if I didn't know. Like, oh well, I mean, I guess she went to Valhalla. It's all good. And then
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I didn't really like that. I mean, also well, I mean, they diverged from the story of Jane being Thor quite a bit.
Well,
Because
yeah, this is a complete departure from what all of these stories do in the comics, like the
yeah,
uh, God Killer. Oh, I'm not saying that right.
the God Bomb.
Well, God Bomb is the second part of the story. It was the first part. It's like God something. But yeah, the Gore storyline is different. The
Hmm.
Mighty Thor storyline with Jane is different. And I think the other storyline in there is different. And I'm really interested as to why they decided to choose Eternity. Because I'm sure that's gonna come up later. Because I'm like,
I
you don't
guess
just yeah.
for me, like to me, the most disappointing part about the movie was they don't actually show Jane get like, her abilities and like they just
They
kind of
just
show
skip
her
over
walking
it.
up to Mjolnir and then later she shows up all Thor and everything. I don't know, because they filmed it. I read that they filmed the scene, they just cut it out.
Yeah, I hear they filmed a ton of stuff in this
Yeah.
movie. Like there was like a 4 hour cut somewhere that we're
That
never
would
gonna
have
see,
been really
which
fun to
makes
see, I
makes me
I
think.
sad.
I want the
Yeah.
Taika cut.
I do. I kinda do. I'm
I want
not
the
gonna lie.
4 hour fucking Lord of the Rings version.
What did you
Um
guys think about the goats? Everybody hated the goats.
I loved it.
I feel like the goats
Um,
Screaming goat.
were like a reference to something that I
they
didn't
were.
quite pick
Do you
up.
remember? Do you know what they were a reference to?
It was like a
I looked.
TV show, right?
Taylor Swift's 21
No,
or 22.
The Taylor Swift meme of
What?
like remember like the Trouble music video where it's like trouble, trouble,
Oh yeah,
trouble,
that one,
and
that
then they
one.
replaced the like with goats. That's what that's a reference to. It's like a 10-year-old meme,
Yeah.
which is insane to say, like, who just thinks of like a 10-year-old meme and is just like, I want to throw that in the movie? But it was funny. I thought it was funny. It just like I would never have thought it was a Taylor Swift mashup reference, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, for me, I cried probably like 2 or 3 times during that movie, I would
Yeah.
say. I'm kind of emotional, you know what I mean? But
Cool.
it was good. The movie had like it was funny and it was a lot of action and it was emotional and
It was
I guess
heartfelt, yeah.
yeah.
Like the whole, like the fact that at the end Jane is literally like, I know I'm probably gonna die, but like I need to save Thor and I need to save those kids. That's grade A. That's heroism. That like that showed me why Thor fell in love with her all along. Because like, deep down he knew that, she had the hero inside. She would put
Well,
herself in harm's way to save
it also implied that she wasn't worthy, that she was only worthy because Thor had like sort of put that into his those
Mhm.
thoughts into his hammer somehow. That it really wasn't elaborated
Yeah.
on.
He
Yeah,
kind of like
which I would
he
say
kind of
that
like
that
charmed the hammer.
Yeah.
yeah. Which I would say is maybe the weaker point in the movie, because it would have been cool if she was just worthy on her own. Like that deconstruction of like why the hammer worked for her. Maybe like I don't know. I don't know if I like that. It would have been cool if she were just worthy because uh, her battle with cancer and deciding to be a hero in spite of that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I didn't love that part, but at the end of the day, like I think her sacrifice in the end kind of shows her true character.
Just
But I really liked this movie. I don't know.
do you think that, I mean, obviously, I think one big thing, one big issue with it is Gore could have been fleshed out more. I mean,
Yes,
he had a
he
very
was in like 4 scenes. I think he was in 4 scenes,
shallow character arc.
maybe 5.
Uh, is it AJ? I'm just say AJ. Hello, welcome to the chat, dude.
Mhm.
Welcome to the backlog. Um, yeah. So I mean, yeah. So just remember, if you ever, if you ever get depressed, if your life is a void,
Yeah,
go
Adopt
yeah.
a child.
go get a child,
Just
and then it'll fix everything.
A child with superpowers. Yeah,
I mean, it
very specific.
could be a child with superpowers, could not. I mean, I'm just saying that.
Make some money off of that child.
Whoa. Um,
What if they have superpowers, you know what I mean?
I possibly. I don't know.
You gotta set this child up for their
Sell
future.
them to the
You gotta keep them for their
Soikis.
college.
Sell
But
them to
yeah,
the.
no, I liked it. I thought honestly, like the whole child thing was him just honoring his agreement with Gore about taking care of the
Well,
child.
yes, but it's just the answer that I just don't prefer that sort of
Yeah.
like that message,
Mhm.
because I think it's personally I think it's what a lot of people come to the conclusion of in life, is like they sort of they stop like emotionally learning and progressing as an individual, and then it's not only till they get to having a child that they sort of stop focusing on themselves, and then they completely stop growing because they live vicariously through someone else.
Mhm.
I don't like that. And there's also an aspect of like I don't know how to like, what is the term? It's where people put pressure on other people to have kids. Like, people who are single, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. But
Uh,
that wasn't really this movie though.
there's like a
So like,
societal norm to it, but
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I feel like that is like a big, I don't feel like Thor, he grew a little bit, but not, I mean, I don't think it's as
No,
much as everyone thinks.
as I said, I think he from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end, I definitely think he has a pretty well defined character arc. And like, yeah, I mean, he's not perfect at the end of the movie, but I think he's learned a lot.
I
And
don't
he's right.
he just
Yeah,
continuously loses people. You'd think he'd probably get even more depressed after losing Jane, after he just, figured out his feelings for her, confessed them to her, and then lost her, like right after.
Yeah. I think once he found out that she was dying, he didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
He kind of had to do what he had to do. Also, that part on the boat when they're talking, that's the part where I got sad. I was like, oh
Mhm.
man, like, because it's like, imagine how crushing it would be to somebody who actually like lost their wife to, cancer. I was like, I can't imagine somebody actually sitting through that, and not
Mhm.
crying or whatever it may be. But I mean, I think it was I do think it's a good movie. I do think it's 8, but I do think it has problems. I don't want to completely kiss its ass, but I had a lot of fun with it. I really
Yeah, I'd
did.
probably say the same thing. I was probably say like 8.5. I know. I'm kind of like in between
Always
8 and
one
9.
one
I
always
want to
always
give it a
halfing up
9.
me.
Yeah.
You want to give it a
I
9?
would.
Give it a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
I
give it
would.
a 9. I just loved it. It was good.
I'm giving it a 9 too, and I'm not saying I want like every movie to be like this, but I'm like,
Mhm.
bro, like I think a lot of people are kind of not understanding that the Marvel formula involves comedy. Comedy is going to be there in some way, even if it's a dark movie.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like Captain America 2, pretty serious, straightforward spy thriller. Still
Yeah.
had comedic scenes. Like that is the Marvel formula.
Yeah.
Comedy is going to be in there somewhere. Avengers Endgame, I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere.
Oh
Same
yeah.
with Infinity War. Like those are super dark movies, but I'm sure there's some comedy.